Okay, so since it's 3 p.m. now, I will go ahead and start this webinar. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Shihan from New Venture Corporation. We are the organizer of the webinar today. Welcome aboard. And ever since the government introduced the net energy metering scheme in November 2016, Malaysia has seen a rapid growth in this sector. In order to boost the usage of solar energy, the Energy and Natural Resource Minister has issued the Net Energy Metering 3.0, which will be in effect from 2021 to 2023, and the allocation is up to 500 megawatts. So regarding to this market focus, during this webinar, speakers will give their opinions and interpretations on Malaysia's solar market and the net energy metering 3.0. Now, I would like to give a brief introduction and a big welcome to our speakers for today. They are Mr. Ng Siu Chun, the Technical Sales Manager, SEA, from Goodwe Power Supply Technology, Ms. Elva Wang, the Senior Sales Manager, Trina Solar APAC region from Trina Solar, Mr. Jack Neeland, the Partner of Vector Energy Advisory, Mr. KK Kong, the Managing Director of Mako Solar, and Mr. Arnold Arrow, the Country Head of Malaysia, Vietnam, and Cambodia from Cleantech Solar. So for today's webinar, we will first start with a 10 minutes plenary speech given by Ms. Elva Wang from Trina Solar with the topic of how the latest module technology can further reduce PV's LCOE in Malaysia, following by another 10 minutes plenary speech given by Mr. Ng Siu Chun from Goodwe with the topic of create a new era of smart energy. And then we will invite Mr. Jack Neeland, Mr. KK Kong, and Mr. Arnold Arrow to join the panel discussion. So the organizer of today's webinar, New Venture Corporation, is dedicated to supporting keen investors and developers for successful development and investment in Asia Pacific renewable energy sector. Our footprints cover Asia Pacific countries such as Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, China, Myanmar, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, and some Middle East countries. And also, we will introduce the winner for the lottery session after the panel discussion. So please make sure to stay to the end to see if you have won the prize sponsored by Trina Solar and Goodwe. So before starting the webinar, I would also like to introduce a few housekeeping notes with our attendees. If you experience any technical issues or if you have any questions for our speakers, please do feel free to use the below Q&A box. We will leave a Q&A time after the panel discussion. And also we will share the webinar recordings with you by next week through your registration email. So before handing the microphone to Ms. Elva Wang, I would like to go ahead and display a short video of Trina Solar to introduce their 2210 Vertex Super Factory. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And right now, I would like to give the mic to Ms. Elva Wang, the first speaker for today from Trina Solar. Let's give her a big welcome. Hello. Hello, Elva, can you hear me?
Hello, yes. Can you see me now? I will share my screen. Okay. Sorry, my hotel, the Wi-Fi is not really so good. Okay. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, looks perfect.
Okay. Wait for a while, I try to adjust. Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Elva from Trina Solar. I'm very happy to be here to introduce Trina Solar solution on NEM market in Malaysia. So before going to the product introduction, please allow me to take 1 minute to introduce our company background. Trina Solar was founded in 1997, so total 24 years history. IPO in New York in 2006. In 2016, we built the factory in Thailand and established a storage business. After 2 years, in 2018, we merged the Spanish company NEM and expanded the business to tracker system. And last year, 2020, we re-IPO in China. And Trina Solar actually is well known by manufacturing the solar module, but besides the solar module, we also provide the system solution as a checker, and utility project developer, and the energy storage system. So as a module manufacturer, Trina, we total ship more than 66 gigawatt to more than 100 countries through 5 factories in China, and 2 overseas factories in Vietnam and Thailand. As a tracker supplier, we total provide more than 2 gigawatt with a factory both in China and Spain. We also grid connected to more than 5 gigawatt project as a developer. So for Asia Pacific, our HQ located in Singapore. And last year, the operation income increased 26.5%, total 4.28 billion US dollar, assets total 7 billion US dollar, and shipped more than 15 gigawatt modules globally last year. Okay, so go back to the product side. Let's first look back at the module technology over last 10 years. So this is a module power increment from 2009 until 2022. So you can see the power module power increased a lot during the past decade. But quite interesting point is that before 2019, the increment rate is around 10 to 20 watt per year. But after 2019, this rate is become much faster. So every year it's around 50 to 100 watt. By using the brand new 210 millimeter wafer technology, last year, Trina launched the Vertex 500 and our 18 series 500 and the 19 series 550. And this year, we also started selling the 20 and the 21 series 600 and the 670 watt. But for the 600 plus, which is mainly for the utility project. So by using the big wafer and the multiple busbar technology, we can increase the module voltage and efficiency within the shortest time to adapt to lower and lower PPA rate. Also, for non-destructive cutting technology can lower the micro crack risk for better product reliability. For now, actually, CNI market, the commercial and the industry market is very mature in Malaysia since the FIT time until now to NEM market. While there's a misunderstanding that the module voltage is, whether the module voltage is higher is better. Actually, it's not 100% for all the rooftop projects Besides the module voltage and the module efficiency, we also needed to consider the safety issue and the convenience during the installation. So that's why last year we launched the Vertex S for the residential and the small CNI project. So we can see the power can reach 410 watts, and the module efficiency is already up to 21.3%, which is which is much higher than the 550 watt in the market. So the module height also go back to 1.7 meter. I think currently all the module you are using now is around more than 2 meter already, but the Vertex S can go back to 1.7 meter, and the weight is around 21 kilogram. It can balance the power, the size, and the weight perfectly. So the smaller size make it more flexible in layout for wider applications. According to the big data and the analysts, the layout design, Vertex S can have higher installation capacity on more than 80% rooftop situations. Then for most commercial and industry rooftop, the 450 watt and the 500 watt module are more suitable, consider the module efficiency, the voltage, the height, and the weight. So we can see for 450 watt module, I use the 166 and wafer technology, and it's around 2.1 meter high, and the weight is around 24 kilogram. While compared to 450, we believe 500 watt is much more competitive for commercial and industry projects. 500 watt is 50 watt higher power output with a similar size. So we call it the king of the distribution PV module. So we can see here, we compare the 500 to 450, 250 and 400 watt module. We can see it's around less than 2.2 meter, and the weight is around 26.5 kilogram, which is only 2 kilogram more than the 450 watt module. We still can keep the current still is around 12.1, which is compatible with the most inverter in the market now. So take the example of the 1 megawatt industry reference project. Compared to 450, using 500 watt, you can increase the installation capacity to 11 to 22%, and the BOS saving can reach to 1.87 to 3.77 cents US dollar per watt, because you can save the structure, cable, combiner box, and the installation costs, etc. And for the bigger commercial and the industry project or even utility project, 550 watt module will be the flagship module for all scenarios, while the EPC and the installers must be alerted with the dimension and the weight. Because all the 550 watt module in the market is not really friendly on all the rooftops, considering the length is around 2.3 meter. So we can see no matter using the 210 technology or 182 technology, as long as the module reach to 540 or 550 watt, the module is already become bigger, and we can see the weight is around 28.6 kilogram for monofacial, and for bifacial it's more than 30 kilogram already. So that's why we also recommend all the installer needed to check on the dimension and the weight. So that's why the 2 persons to carry the module is essential for this kind of technology. But different from other manufacturers, for Trina, we do the 550 watt module. We're using 210 technology to significantly reduce the VOC. So for the let's say for the 1,500 system, if you're using the 210 technology, for the 540 watt module, you can connect 35 piece per string. So one string, the total power is more than 19 kilowatt. If for the other technology, 182, one string, you can only connect 27 or 28 piece module. So one string total power is around 14.5 kilowatts, which means actually using the low voltage module, one string you can increase 32% for the power for one string. So why we try to connect the modules in one string? Because we can see if the string quantity reduces, then we can save lots of BOS cost, including the mounting structure. If you use a tracker, of course, you can save the tracker, the mounting structure, the cable, and even the installation cost. So this is one example we take for 100 megawatt project. The BOS cost can go to 1.29 cents US dollar per watt, even compared to 545 210 technology and 182 535 watt. Even though the wattage is only 10 watt difference, but the BOS saving is a lot, mainly because of low VOC technology. So besides above module for rooftop project, we also push the module to 6.0 era, which means now the module is not only like 400, 500 watt. Now the module can go up to 670 watt. So, but this is mainly for the utility project because the dimension is also bigger. So we not really recommend for rooftop due to the safety and the convenience issue. So if using the 670 watt, we can see the BOS saving will be much more compared to 540 or 550 technology. I think this will be very good news for the utility project like LSS4 project in Malaysia. And also, besides to reduce the LCOE, besides the module side, we also recommend the tracker to reduce the module DC capacity. But because this currently our webinar is mainly for the NEM market, so I won't really expand too much in detail about the tracker. And besides the new 210 technology, we are also exploring the N-type top count and the HJT technology to further reduce the project LCOE. So I believe soon the new module can also be sold in Malaysia market to really compete the low and lower PPA rate or EPC cost. Here, lastly, I would like to share some of our project reference in Malaysia and also in other Asia Pacific market for utility, as well as for the commercial project. Okay, thank you. So this is all from my part.
Thank you so much, Ms. Elva, for your great information sharing. And now I would like to go ahead and hand the mic to Mr. Ng Siu Chun from Goodwe. Let's welcome. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Ng, please feel free to share your PowerPoints.
So can you see my slide now?
1 second. Do you mind sharing again?
Okay, sorry.
Wait, I think I know you to stop the sharing because I trying to find the button. Okay, so I think now you can.
So can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, just do some setting here. Okay, thank you, Shihan and Elva.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Ng. I think we can see your notes on the side.
Oh, sorry. Just a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Is it better now?
Yeah, looks great. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, once again, thank you, Shihan and Elva, for the good presentation. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eng from Goodwe, Southeast Asia. So I'm actually the technical sales manager for Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and also the Philippines. And I'm very honored to be invited to present Goodwe solutions for the C&I rooftop as well as NEM applications in Malaysia. So let me spend some time to introduce our company. So Goodwe is established in 2010. We have already more than 11 years of history here. So we focus mainly on the development and manufacturing of solar PV inverter as well as storage inverter. In 2014, Goodwe launched the first ES series, which is our storage inverter for the residential segment. And last year in 2020, we are public listed in Shanghai Stock Exchange. On the same year, we also became the licensing partner of GE. So currently, Goodwe has more than 2,300 employees all around the world with around 500 R&D staff. Last year alone, despite the challenging situation, Goodwe still managed to achieve more than 240 million US dollar, and we would like to thank all our customers around the globe for this great achievement. We have sales office all over the world. For Southeast Asia alone, we have sales and service center in Malaysia, Thailand, as well as Vietnam. Our local service center currently situated in Sungai Besi in Malaysia. These are some of the Goodwe awards that we get across all over the world. We are proud to say that we are the sole inverter brand to have won the TUV Ryland All Quality Matters Award for more than 6 consecutive years. In 2019, we are also awarded the world #1 hybrid storage inverter by Wood Mackenzie and also PV Magazine. This is our rankings in major PV markets. So we are ranked top 1 in China rooftop as well as India rooftop market, and top 2 in Australia rooftop as well as top 3 in the Spain rooftop. So these countries are all very important PV countries. Yeah. These are the list of some of our global partners and customers, which include Siemens, IKEA, Bosch, Toyota, Coca-Cola, and LG. So these companies have all installed PV system with Goodwe inverters on the rooftop of their factories. Up until today, we have a cumulative installation capacity of 23 gigawatt across the globe, with 12 gigawatt in residential as well as 11 gigawatt in commercial and industrial segment. Goodwe has a full product portfolio from residential to commercial and industrial as well as utility scale. Besides that, we are also involved in hybrid storage solutions that comes with lithium batteries. Our largest inverter for the commercial is 120 kilowatt, which is 10% more than what is currently offered by all our competitors in the market, as well as 250 kilowatts for the utility scale solutions, which is actually targeted for the LSS4 projects. So going into the product, these are our product offerings for the C&I segment with power class ranging for 17 kilowatt up to 120 kilowatt. The HT series is our latest product and offer an output power of 120 kilowatts with 12 MPPTs and 24 input strings, supporting up to 1.5 DC, 150% DC oversizing. Besides that, we also have a very excellent thermal performance with full load operation even at 50 degrees Celsius. And I think this is very important for Malaysia environment. Our product design is designed with following features in mind: redundant protection, cable saving, operation monitoring, and convenient O&M. So for cable saving, our inverters accept, instead of only accepting copper cable, we also can support aluminum cable usage. As well as for operation monitoring, we do have a string level monitoring to make sure that the O&M can be carried with ease. Our HT series is also compatible to the latest module technology with high performance module. For example, the module here from one of our partners have a short circuit current of 13.98 ampere and a maximum MPP current of 13.12 ampere. These currents is actually exceeded most of what the traditional conventional inverter is offering at the moment, which they kept their maximum input current at 13 ampere. HT series inverter from us actually has a maximum input current power of 15 ampere per string, and this will allow our customers to have a more flexible design in their system. Our inverter also comes with default full surge protection, including the communication port, which we also include Type 3 SPD protection for the communication port. Apart from that, we also support AFCI functions as well as an AC thermometer temperature sensor. We also support the remote turn off, remote shutdown function for C&I customers, yeah, with our communication solutions. HT series also comes with lower startup voltage and larger operating voltage range. This will allow the inverter to work for a longer period. For example, from this curve, we can see that during summertime, the inverter starts working before 6 o'clock and only ends slightly before 9 o'clock. So this will maximize the yield production of the inverter and improve the ROI of the system. So that's next, I will go into our storage solutions, which I think would be also interesting for our Malaysian customers, especially with the new introduction of the NEM 3.0. So could we also have a full range of storage inverter from residential up to the commercial. So we have both hybrid inverter as well as AC coupled inverter. But today I will focus more on our latest commercial storage product, which is the BTC. BTC is an AC coupled inverter with 50 kilowatt maximum output power. Together with our HT series product, it is a perfect combination for the commercial application, especially when power export in the NEM 3.0 is just rated as at the S&P price. This is the overview of our storage PCS BTC. It adopts a modular design concept where we have the EMS module, DC-DC module, DC-AC module, as well as the SDS module. For example, the SDS module is responsible to switch into backup mode when the grid is breakdown within 10 milliseconds, so that our storage system can achieve the UPS level protection. BTC is suitable to work for various applications. For the most common application would be the time of use application, as well as maximum demand reduction application. As you can see in this curve, we have set a maximum demand threshold here, and the red color curve would be the load consumption of the factory, for example. In the load consumption, we have two peaks here. So one is during the daytime and one is during the nighttime. During the daytime, we are able to cover the peak here with our power from PV. But during the nighttime, when there is no PV power, the battery will kick in to compensate the peak demand in order to control the demand below the maximum demand threshold. By doing this, our customer will not only enjoy a savings on the usage, but also at the maximum demand reduction. Also, at the same time, during blackout happens, grid breakdown, the battery can also kick in and support the load consumption, especially for critical operations. This is the extra additional financial benefits that our products provides. The other very important features of our product is it supports 100% bidirectional or unbalanced power. This is extremely important when our load is unbalanced, and it will allow us to fully utilize the stored power in the battery, as well as the generated power from the PV. So in the first example, we can see the storage output only whatever that we need for the load, and there is no power export into the grid. This is only could be done when our system is able to output an unbalanced output. On the other hand, when we want to charge the battery with the PV power or from the solar power with unbalanced output in the factory, we can also make sure that 100% of the remaining solar power could be used to charge the battery instead of some needed to be exported into the grid and cause wastage. Our BTC product is also designed for easy installation and maintenance. The product comes with an LCD screen and a USB port. So all configuration as well as monitoring can be done through this LCD screen, and firmware update can also simply done by a USB stick. Apart from that, our storage PCS also come with a movable and lockable wheels. So this will make the transportation of the system much easier, and we can always push it into the MSP room of our on-site. Yeah, last but not least, our system is also all designed to be plug and play, and then it's independent of each other. So if one of the module is faulty, what our maintenance crew, service crew need to do is just bring a new one and just switch it over, exchange it, and then plug it in, and then that's all. And the system will run again. That's all from my side today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ng, for the information sharing. And now it's time to start our panel discussion for today, the Malaysia Solar NEM 3.0, delivering a greener future. So let's welcome Mr. Jack Neelan, Mr. KK Kong, Mr. Arnold Arrow, Ms. Elva Wang, and Mr. Ng Siu Chun to join us for this panel discussion. And now I will go ahead and hand the mic to Mr. Jack Neelan. He will be our moderator for today's panel discussion. Welcome.
Great. Thank you very much, Shihan, and thank you to the two speakers for their very detailed presentations. I'm very excited to kick off the Solar Talks webinar, Malaysia's Solar NEM 3.0, Delivering a Greener Future webinar, and to welcome the audience to the session today. We're starting the panel a few minutes late, which means we'll go a few minutes later, so we'll have a full panel and then some questions at the end. What I'd like to do is to give a few opening remarks about Malaysia, and then I'll turn the panel over to each of the panelists to introduce themselves briefly, and then I think we can have a very nice discussion. My name is Jack Neelan. I'm a partner in Vector Energy Advisory. We're a strategy consulting and transaction advisory firm based in ASEAN. We work with companies and investors to help them grow their businesses and make better investment decisions in the clean energy sector. Over the last few years, we've started to do a lot of work across the region in solar rooftops and are seeing Malaysia emerging as one of the bright spots in that sector. So I'm very, very excited to kick off this discussion and have an opportunity to learn more about the current status of this market from some real well-placed industry participants. You know, I think for many of us in this industry and in this region, Malaysia hasn't gotten as much attention as some of the other countries such as Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines. But actually, Malaysia, in many ways, is a major market, a large market, and a very important one. So again, I think this is great timing and a great important issue. You know, Malaysia does have a population of 33.5 million people, a GDP of 380 billion, and a peak energy demand of about 18.6 megawatts. So by ASEAN standards, it's right in the middle of the pack and actually a bit bigger than the Philippines. However, it's also a very wealthy country relative to its peers and is quite developed. So on a per capita basis, GDP figures, energy consumption figures are actually at the top of the pack except for Singapore. You know, Malaysia also has a very sophisticated manufacturing sector, and over the last few years has developed a very sophisticated renewable energy program and very ambitious clean energy goals. You know, in terms of recent solar PV development in the region, Malaysia is also a leader. The country really is at the head of the pack, just behind Vietnam, who's a global leader. But Malaysia's really been proactive in developing bold programs and installing probably more capacity than any other regional country, except for Vietnam. You know, at the end of 2020, Malaysia had roughly 1.5 gigawatts of installed capacity on this of solar PV. You know, much of this had been brought on through a series of large-scale auction programs, the LSS 1 through 4, which have really seen some of the most active participation and some of the lowest prices of any solar program in the region. But some of as the supply and demand balances out, the LSS programs are moving ahead. I think we'll see LSS4 bidders and winners develop their project this year. But the attention on the solar side looks ready to shift to rooftops, following the pattern we saw in Thailand and Vietnam, where after the industrial scale grid-mounted boom waned a little bit, commercially viable solar rooftop programs took off. And I think Malaysia really is at the precipice of joining that trend, which is part of what makes this program so interesting today. You know, the solar rooftops, again, around the region, we've seen booms in India, in Thailand, in Vietnam, and Malaysia really does seem poised to jump on that bandwagon. 2020 was a huge year for Malaysia on the solar rooftop space, with almost 500 megawatts of capacity developed. Part of this through earlier net metering programs. So it'll be very interesting to see where that leaves us with the advent of NEM 3.0, which was launched at the beginning of this year and provides quotas of 300 megawatts for commercial and industrial, and 100 for domestic or residential, and 100 for government agencies. Again, after the boom year of 2020 and this new program, it leaves 2021 in a very strong position to see increased growth. There's also been quite a lot of talk around things like direct PPAs and green purchasing for companies and others, and that looks likely to give another boost of growth for the country. So a lot going on in Malaysia, and a very good opportunity today to hear about that. So with that, what I'd like to do is to start off by asking each of the panelists to introduce themselves. I know we heard a little bit from Siu Chun and from Elva Wang, but maybe I'll just walk down the list and ask each of the participants to give a very brief introduction of themselves, their role in the region, and what they're doing in Malaysia. And maybe I'll follow the order I have on the from the event announcement, and start with Siu Chun. Maybe you could just briefly introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, so thank you, Jack. So I'm Siu Chun from Goodwill Southeast Asia, and basically the technical sales manager for Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, and Indonesia. Yeah. Thank you. Great,
thank you very much. The next panelist, KK Kong. I know a lot of people involved in Malaysia know and have heard of KK. KK is the CEO of Mako Solar and a local expert. KK, would you like to tell us a little bit more about your background, please?
Hi, Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name is KK. So we are EPC company in Malaysia that help clients, especially in CNI, to apply and install, commission the rooftop systems. Yeah. So thanks, Jack. Hi, Arnold. Long time no see. And
Great. Thank you very much, KK.
Elva. Yeah, many friends here.
Good.
Yeah.
So Elva, I know we heard from you, but maybe you could give a quick introduction to yourself, anything you didn't say in the earlier presentation.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. This is Elva. I'm Senior Manager for Trina Solar. I'm in solar industry about maybe 10 years. So I quite really like the solar industry. And 2 years in inverter and maybe 7 years in solar module company. So personally, I also live in Malaysia. So Malaysia is a very special country to me, not only business places, you know, so it's also my second home. So and I personally, I also doing Malaysia market already, I think 7 years already. Yeah, so since the Malaysia is only like a 10 megawatt 1 year, now until now like 1 gigawatt. So the Malaysian market not really so big, but it's really jumped very fast. Yeah.
Great, thank you. I agree with you. And then last but certainly not least, Arnaud Ayal has been with Cleantech Solar, I think from the beginning, and really one of the leaders in the solar rooftop business. He's the country head of Malaysia, Vietnam, and Cambodia. So a great perspective. Arnaud, anything else? Would you like to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, sure. I mean, thanks for giving us a chance to participate. So, I mean, my name is Arnaud. I'm based in Singapore. Been with Cleantech since the company started about 7 years ago. And as you mentioned, Jack, I'm in charge of our business in a few countries. Now, I mean, our perspective is a little bit special because, you know, we're quite a specialist, you know, developer. We only work with, you know, CNI customers, especially the larger ones, on a PPA basis. You know, we bring the investment. You know, we don't sell the PV system. So we work with guys like Mako and others, you know, to help us, you know, deploy the systems. But been doing a lot of that in Southeast Asia and India. We have more than 600 megawatts of signed contracts, and that's accelerating. So it's quite busy. Malaysia has been for a few years now already. We've been there before NEM with NEM 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 now. So we've seen a bit of the evolution there. We have more than 150 projects signed in Malaysia, so across the whole country. And that means we've built the whole infrastructure, you know, with, you know, business development, project, O&M team, finance, health and safety, and all of that based in Malaysia. So quite busy for us, but yeah, interesting to get a chance to talk about the kind of slow, steady acceleration. I guess is probably where Malaysia sits. You know, it's not like Vietnam, that's gone a bit mad last year, but it's certainly a very interesting place for us. You know, in a market where we're very satisfied. We have a pretty good position.
Great, thank you. And I think for those of us who've worked in this region for a while, slow and steady is often a good thing. Some of the countries do charge forward and then have pauses, like Thailand, where I'm sitting. So let's hope the emphasis is more on steady than slow. But I think that's a probably positive remark. You know, again, I mentioned how good the panel was. I think this introduction is really, I think, hit home how much we have a group of real Malaysia experts. So I am really excited to turn the floor over to the panelists and hear more from them. The way I'm going to do the discussion is somewhat, again, discussion informal style, and I'll maybe just ask someone to kick off each of the topics, and then we can pass it around. What I may do is start with KK maybe, and to ask, you know, I gave a bit of an introduction about Malaysia, a little bit of an overview. But I'm sure I missed some things, and I know you have a much better perspective. If I could ask KK just to say, you know, what is your view on the status of the Malaysia solar market in general, but really in particular the rooftop and NEM space? Is there anything I missed or anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so if we have been in the industry, you know, for more than 10 years. So like Elva mentioned, you know, this is the most exciting year despite of the COVID, the uptake of the solar, especially at the rooftop, commercial rooftop segment, is hundreds of megawatt being stepped up in just a short two months, you see. So it's quite very interesting. So probably the other speakers can add more. So we are very busy with so many things on hand. But again, but the prices keep shooting up. The panels, all the raw materials prices is the double-edged sword, you see. So that we have to live with. But in the bigger picture, we see very upbeat and very positive of the market. How the awareness is more and more, and it's just the beginning. Yeah.
Great. So why don't I walk through the rest of the panel and just see if anyone else wants to add anything to that. Elva, is there anything that you'd like to add from your perspective on the Malaysia market?
Yeah, I think Malaysian market, everyone agrees that it's not really so big, but it's stable. But actually, as a supply, maybe we are more greedy. So just say, of course, now Malaysia have 500 megawatts, NEM 3.0. Yeah, we are quite happy. But actually, we can see, we all know that solar will become a really open market. So not only rely on the FIT or NEM policy or even PPA. So in the future, we hope like Malaysia can be really more open and flexible market. So cannot say like, oh, the government today give me the policies and every company can survive, and tomorrow no policies and we all need to close our company. You know, it's not really. I mean, not so, the security is not enough. So we can see like NEM 3.0, even when I was in Malaysia, I can see like the MPRA or every service providers, they also try to convince the government to get more quota or even less restrictions inside. So this is also what we want to see. Like when, of course, we needed to grow stably, and but sometimes maybe the speed can also be faster. Even so, the more, of course, like what Mr. KK Kong said, the module price keep increasing, but for sure we think it's temporary because the module price like dropped for the last 10 years. So like 1 year we increase, then every people cannot stand. But I mean, only when we overcome this kind of tough situation, because the price increment not only on the module, but when you can survive and when the government can really open the policy, then everyone can go longer and faster in the future.
Great. And maybe I'll also ask Arnaud for any perspective on that. And I did mention that it looks like Malaysia may be following in the path of, you know, the exciting developments in Vietnam and Thailand. Any perspective from you, and do you agree with that general assessment?
Yeah, I mean, each country is different, right? You know, so you can't just, you know, decide that one country is setting a template and other countries are going to, you know, follow in their path. And I'm sure that's not what you were doing. But I mean, maybe just zooming in a bit on what we've been saying earlier. I mean, clearly we've seen a huge change from like 3 or 4 years ago, where it was all about education. I mean, you would come and meet, you know, manufacturing companies, and they had no idea, right? They you know, it was all about education. You know, now in the market in Malaysia, we can sense, you know, on average, market is much more mature. People know what it is, you know, they know, you know, that it makes sense. You know, they have certain views, you know, they are much more engaged, involved, you know, and proactive in the conversations. I think we have a more mature audience, at least on the CNI space, you know, than we did before. But in terms of, you know, the dynamics, we have seen an acceleration last year, clearly with, you know, in 2020. And I think that was the result of two factors. You know, one, you know, positive, you know, dynamics still on the module costs in 2020. I mean, you know, which was still quite good, you know, so the economics were becoming very compelling. And I think that the market also seemed to realize that NEM 2.0 was kind of coming to an end, you know, so those two factors together, you meant there was like a bit of a rush for the exit there. And I think we're still, you know, carrying a bit of the overhang of that, you know, right now, with people busy now implementing or deploying the systems that, you know, got through with NEM 2.0. I think it's quite possible we're going to see in 2021 a little bit of a correction, because now those two factors have kind of gone in reverse, right? Module pricing, and with all due respect to Elva, module pricing is probably not an incentive anymore just now. We're all kind of sitting tight and hoping for things to get a bit better. So I think that's definitely not going to accelerate, at least new decisions in the immediate future. And then moving on to kind of NEM 3.0, I mean, the successor to 2.0, it looks the same, but it's really not the same. I mean, 3.0 features a lot of constraints, and limitations that you didn't have with 2.0. I mean, 2.0 was probably the best net metering program that I think we had seen in the region. Extremely flexible, no limit in capacity, the true kind of one-for-one credit for C&I customers, which was pretty unprecedented, in most markets in the region. Now, 3.0 is not that. I mean, you have a limit in capacity, you have a limit in time, you have a, uncertainty actually about, the value, that customers will get credited for the exported energy. So that changes the economics quite significantly. It's still a lot better than nothing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're seeing the difference with say markets like Thailand that don't have any, net metering whatsoever. So I'd rather have NEM 3.0 than nothing. But as compared to 2.0, yeah, it's night and day. In terms of the attractiveness for the business case, regardless of it being on a self-invest outright purchase or being a PPA basis. The economic impact is the same really, and it's quite a different story. So I would say, possibly we're going to see definitely a bit of a plateau in 2021 because those two factors have kind of changed quite dramatically from last year.
Great, thank you very much. In a minute, we'll get into the details of NEM 3.0. How about one chance for Seo Chan? Did you want to add anything to this background, sort of the status update on where Malaysia is?
Yeah, well, I'm totally agree with what Arnold and KK have been speaking about the price and so on. But surprisingly, NEM 3.0 quota is gone by 80% after launching 2 months. So we are not really seeing any stopping down. So maybe like KK said, the awareness is better in Malaysia now. Everyone is aware of that, and the quota is just too small for the market. But at the same time, we hope that with the storage solutions and the batteries technologies that is also coming down with the price and so on, then it will bring another aspect of the game into the game. So there is a more attractive business model that could be used to maneuver with the export capacity limitation that is there in NEM 3.0.
Great, thank you very much. Very, very interesting updates already. So I want to do one more quick background question. Then again, we will jump into the NEM 3.0 and the future. And this one, anyone who wants to answer can answer. If you don't, feel free not to. And I actually may ask Arnaud to jump in first. But I wanted to look at look into the projects themselves and the people making the decisions to move forward with investments, whether it's their own investment or a third-party investment. What is driving this? I know we've seen in you're correct that every country isn't the same, but to some degree, some of the drivers, climate and so forth, have global aspects. What do you see driving so we saw in Thailand and Vietnam, in India, where companies were able to get the climate benefits and cost saving. It's almost a no-brainer for companies. A lot are driven by global policies. What do you see driving the uptake in Malaysia? And I do understand that the economics are now quite attractive. So the sort of premise of gaining sustainability without additional cost does stand true in Malaysia. Is that correct, or do you have any other perspective on the decision making?
Yeah, I mean, as always, you have, every customer is different, right? Every company has got its own kind of sensitivities, and hot buttons, and they're all different, But I think a few data points. I mean, the economics are enough in Malaysia today, to justify looking at solar. solar, Malaysia is a pretty favorable environment. The yield is pretty good, and the policy, framework is also pretty good. So, in itself, we've seen customers looking at it simply because they realize, okay, I can, save a bit of money here, I can improve my financial performance, so on itself, it's probably enough to justify, companies looking at it. Having said that, from our experience, 95% of successful projects are with companies that kind of look at all of the angles. They see the financial benefit, whether they decide to invest or not, but they also see that it's a good story to tell, a story to tell themselves, their staff, their customers, their suppliers. And sometimes it's an initiative they take. Sometimes, the initiative has been taken by others. They are being told, by their customers that it would be good if, you could kind of show that you're doing your bit, for greenhouse gas, reduction. Or they themselves are under a kind of global or regional mandate, from their own, corporate strategy. So I would say the vast majority of customers we're talking to, are looking at a combination of those. Some of them start first with the savings and realize there's a bigger picture and more benefits there. Quite a few start with the sustainability agenda and then realize, well, actually, I'm going to save some money, so it's good for my bottom line as well. So it's a bit of a matter of where you start, but at the end of the day, I think most people end up making the decision on the basis of a multiplicity of factors, not just the one.
Great. That makes a lot of sense. And I think, again, that is consistent with what we've seen in other countries. Would anybody else like to add anything to that about the project level issues or decision making for people putting panels?
So like most of my customer is mostly local companies. So I'm quite happy that they are more awareness about ESG. Environment, social, and governance. So their adoption of putting solar on the rooftop is not purely driven by the energy saving. Okay, so the awareness is we are very happy that as an environment advocate, we are very happy that the partners, the clients is going into solar also because they want to contribute towards this agenda. So that is something that is very encouraging as industrial players. We like to see this kind of things happening, not just purely on the dollar and cents, because some of the customers will need to do strengthening on their roof, that will increase their capital outlay. So they still move forward with the project. That is something that is very encouraging to us as a player.
If I may, Jack, just a quick comment building up on what KK mentioned. I'd like to highlight that it's not just the Coca-Colas or Kellogg's or AkzoNobels of this world, who are customers and have gone ahead, in global companies. It's also local companies. We've deployed systems for guys like IM brand. Everybody in Malaysia knows IM, the sardines and tuna, tins, and they were trailblazers a few years ago. When we signed with them for their sites in Taiping. Kotra Pharma is a homegrown pharmaceutical company. They're 100% local. And they also decided to go for it, because they had a sustainability agenda. So I agree with KK. Even local companies sometimes have a very strong CSR sustainability agenda. And it's not just the big names that you'd think are obviously going to do it, but it's also some of the local ones as well sometimes.
Fantastic, and I think that's a very good perspective on that question. And what I will do is move forward to looking at the NEM 3.0, unless there's any of the other panelists would like to add anything to that. Okay, so good. This has been a great introduction. We've taken a lot of time on the background and covered NEM 3.0 to some degree, but let's really get into it and look at what this new regulation means. And what I'll do is first start by turning to KK, who can give us a bit of an insight. And KK is going to share his screen with a very interesting, a very good graphic that I think maybe some of us have seen before, and that really lays the details out quite clearly. Thank you. Go ahead, KK.
Okay, probably for the benefits of hundreds over participants here. Some of you are not really well aware of what are the programs available. So probably take a few minutes to share. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can very well.
Yeah, we can.
So basically, Malaysia have launched from 1st of February this year, NEM 3.0 for domestic 100 mega, okay, and for government buildings another 100 mega, okay, and for these two categories, it is one-to-one rollover mechanism. So the unutilized energy will be exported to the grid as your credits that are valid for 12 months. Okay, has been rolled out since 1st of February, and until the quota is depleted or finished. So, and like what happened after, and the policy says that this one-to-one offset or rollover is valid for 10 years. So that's where you can consider goodwill inverters, you know, that they have a very sophisticated mechanism that you can have put in an extra battery in future, okay, to store the energy if you have access, okay. So after 10 years, you can only roll over the program to be self-consumption, okay. For residential market, your maximum system size is 10 kilowatt AC, okay, while the government is 1 mega. The more interesting program is commercial and industrial. The government have launched a 300 mega quota for everyone to apply, and the downside is you are able to roll over for 1 month only your access. Okay, so that's where we come in, that we have a specialist as an EPC, local EPC. We can actually help you to design something that is not too much of export, okay, because whatever that you export will be calculated as a system marginal price, which is in short is called like the market price, okay, the base rate. So, and anything that has excess will be burned after 1 month, okay, so be careful on that. And the maximum that you can install is 1 mega per site and aggregate to 5 mega. So that's the brief introduction of this program that are very hot at the moment. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much, KK. I think that was a good graphic and a very good introduction. You know, I think we've also already talked about some of the aspects of the sort of the heart of the program. Some of the panelists mentioned that, you know, net metering is a very positive thing for any industry, that Malaysia is very much at the front of the market and having it. And although NEM 3.0 is a step back down from the more favorable programs in 2.0, it's still very positive for the industry, and there's been sort of 80% uptake. So this is already looking to be successful. Does anyone is there anything I've missed on any of that? Or are there any, you know, we always see these policy announcements, but people on the ground see something behind them, a complexity and interconnection, or, you know, something that's missed in the regulation or missed in the news. Are there any other insights that you think people should see to help understand what this really means on the ground?
I mean, if I may,
yeah, well, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, if I may, I mean, just to putting things in perspective, because, you know, as I said earlier, and as I think KK highlighted, you know, it's a good program, but if you kind of compare it to what we had in Malaysia until kind of November last year, you know, it's not quite as good, right? You know, because the program last year didn't have any capacity limitation. The remuneration for exports, you know, was was significantly higher. I'm talking about the CNI element here, the Nova element, if you want, because you kind of knew what you would get, which was a full base tariff from TNB as credits for any exported energy. When today, you're going to get the SMP, and you're actually not sure what the SMP is going to be, month on month, right? So it is a challenge. But the capacity limit is definitely a factor as well. I mean, we're currently deploying a few systems in the 2, 3, 4 megawatt range. And obviously, well, NEM has become a bit useless for that. So we're having to deploy all those systems under the self-consumption framework, which is an option. And I think someone is asking on the chat, what happens after NEM? I guess that's all that's going to be left, unless a new framework will be released. So there is the self-consumption framework, option available, but it means you're in a Thailand scenario with no export, option. So you have to curtail. You have to have a zero export solution, and it's obviously for some products it has a significant impact on the economics, but it doesn't stop them from happening. I mean, we're busy with a few Silco projects as well. So I guess putting in perspective, NEM 3.0 has had a good uptake, even though it's really stabilized. I mean, the take up has kind of dried out in the last couple of weeks, but it's quite different from what we had up until last year with 2.0.
Great, good perspective. I think it's also important that you imply, and if I'm correct, that the market itself is larger than the NEM market. The NEM market obviously is driving key elements of it, but it's not going to constrain the market as it does become commercially viable, and there are other drivers. Even though the CNI quote is 300, the market itself can get bigger than that, and hopefully we will see it break free from regulations to become a commercially viable market very soon.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good. Is there anything any other panelists would like to add to that? Any other insights about NEM on the ground that you think people should see, or that may not be obvious by the announcements or the news stories?
Actually, because we are not EPC, so for us, we never applied as an NEM project. So that's why we are also quite curious to ask the Cleantech and Marco. Yes, the policy is one side, but may I know how long it takes to approve the application? Of course, quota is very important, as well as efficiency. Because why I ask this question, because some customer also asked me, now I cannot place order because the NEM still under application. But the raw material pricing increasement never wait for the application. So that's a gap, like the price keep increasing, but customer, they cannot place the order because the application is still not approved. So may I also know for NEM 2.0 and the 3.0, whether the application time gets shorter or longer? So that's why I'm also quite curious, because for sure, if the quota is reduced or keep the same or more restrictions, but whether the process become more efficient, because it's I don't know, I believe it's like the same robot job, right? So it should be faster and faster, right? Yeah. So this I'm quite curious, because I never applied it personally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably I think Arnold will engage us to help him to handle all these also. So the short is version is that the duration is getting longer and longer because there are more and more uptake. Okay, and the manpower in the government agency also very challenging, especially the COVID era. A lot of them have mandatory requirement to work from home now. So the duration is getting longer. So expectation is the client, the end user, will have a longer lead time for the delivery of the project, completion of the project. And as a supplier like Elva, expect our procurement will tell you, they won't be able to tell you. Sometimes you want them to give you some forecast, you have a quite challenging time, to discuss with them. All is because also all are interrelated. So the project management project management is very important. The team to have a quality delivery commitment to both parties, the supplier side and also the client side, have to be handled very delicately, especially at this new norm, you see. So in short, Malaysia, unfortunately, there are many paperwork, many departments to work out. Like you said, it's a slow and steady. So, but surely it's just that the duration is prolonged. In short.
I see. So actually, whether what we talk about here actually cannot change the policy, but like in the future, maybe we also can looking for the not only ask for more quota from government, but also how to be more efficient. This is I think because it should consider as a SOP, because I do believe Malaysia is very good at the SOP because I never experienced so many SOPs before. But even I think it's the application should be by SOP and more and more efficiency. So maybe in the future we also can talk with government how you can make it like a e-paper, not like every people needed to sign on paper, because we never know COVID when will finish and whether we have another pandemic or not. So this is also my suggestion to my other customers. You cannot say wait for your director to sign the payment. You never know when the quarantine can finish, right? So like in the future, maybe the SOP can be like online and can shorten some unnecessary steps, which may be also another advantage besides the quota. Of course, it's okay to have a limited quota, but at least faster.
Yeah. Thank you for your comment. You have helped us to say our what in our heart. Hopefully there are some government agencies in the 108 participants there, that can together, we will support the government to go green to achieve our Paris Agreement, because Malaysia for Jack, Malaysia, we have committed, in Paris Agreement to help to contribute to reduce the carbon footprint. We have our fair share. So together with everyone here, hope that we are the catalyst to do our part, and to help to contribute to reduce the carbon footprint. Yeah. Faster, Elva mentioned, faster.
I saw NEM 3.0 and the 2.0, maybe same procedure, but it's very pity to hear it takes a longer time.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you. I mean, I think those are the exact types of issues I'm interested in hearing on the ground that everyone's experiencing. So I think that's a very good insight for me and for the audience. I think maybe I'll move forward and build on a point that KK made. Malaysia has been very ambitious in climate goals and green programs in general. So I want to ask a bit about other developments around rooftop technologies, rooftop applications, and ask about some things like energy storage that people have asked in some of the questions, or whether industries are and participants are able to build on the rooftop business for other direct distributed energy solutions at the factory side. I know in some ways the NEM is a competition for batteries. If you have a net metering, you don't need batteries as much; they replace each other, but they compete with each other. But maybe in the non-NEM market. So I wanted to see, maybe I would start with Arnaud on this, but any other panelists, whether you're seeing the needs for other applications, a next generation beyond rooftops of any sort.
I think we're seeing, innovation is never binary. I mean, it's a bell curve, and it starts, with a slow trickle, and then it accelerates. I think we're starting to see the beginning, of this kind of bell curve of at least interest and demand from the market. That some customers are more and more often asking about storage, wondering what it could do for them. The business case isn't really super strong just yet, so we always discuss it and we do the comparison, but as of now, we haven't seen a significant number of projects where it made sense, as you say, especially if you have a net metering option, it kind of, sucks the, the wind from, from storage potential, so we don't see that really scaling up just yet, but I think we're seeing the beginning, and I think, it's going to be down to the next 2-3 years cost-wise to see, how fast, the storage cost, move. And then, we might start to see, bigger uptake. But again, on a behind the meter, distributed basis, you need to have, it's a pretty narrow, segment where storage would make sense, because, you need to have this kind of daily, pattern of potential excess energy. Because what we see in the market in Malaysia mainly is potentially a weekly pattern where, on a Sunday, you might have less load than on the rest of the week. And it's really hard to make a business case work for storage, if you only use your capacity 52 times per year, right? It's not very attractive, So I think we will see the beginning of some storage applications, but it's probably going to take a little bit longer. I mean, but conversations are happening. We had a big customer, kind of a global leader, only a few weeks ago, saying, "Look, if storage makes sense, bring it on." He was even saying, "Look, I'll pay more for it if it makes sense." But we concluded actually jointly that it didn't. But they definitely were up for it. They were interested.
And one very quick follow-up question for you on that is, do you see RE100 as a driver for that, with companies wanting to develop more solar offsets that are available within the window of the sunlight hours?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we do see, any commitments to renewable energy as being a big driver, whether it's under the RE100 banner or it's another banner. And we're seeing, some of those names I mentioned before, have got strong, defined target for renewable energy uptake without being members of RE100, So I think it's kind of a big world out there, but definitely, commitments towards using renewables is a huge driver, and again, we're saying, we're not in the EV business, but I think that's also coming, right? I think some of those customers also starting to say, look, okay, what if, would it make sense for me to consider, starting to convert some of my, park of company vehicle delivery vehicles. I mean, we had a case in Singapore, one of our customers, I can mention the name, it's Kuhn & Nagel, in Singapore, they actually started to move to EV vehicles for the delivery of, some of their products, So I think some of those customers are definitely right up there. They will, adopt all the technologies they can, to move the needle, if you want, across storage, EV, renewables, and everything else.
Great, fantastic. I know Ung of Goodweed also has a battery role, but maybe you would like to add to that, or any of the other panelists add to the question of whether people are looking at energy storage or other solutions.
Yeah, I agree with what Arno mentioned. So at the moment, the battery price is still slightly high. So comparatively, because Malaysia has a comparatively low electricity price, but at the same time, I also hear stories from the ground where we will have a blackout like once a month in some area of Malaysia and so on. So these are the values that couldn't be really put onto a spreadsheet and calculate on the financials. So these are the values that some of these owners really appreciate when there is a backup function and for that, because for example in the molding or plastic injection, so when the power is only down for 1 hour, but they spend a lot of hours cleaning the machines. So these are the things that they want to avoid, and these are the values that battery storage that brings to them, that only people in a certain industry will realize it. So maybe the adoption would be slow, but I guess it's really a suitable time to start thinking about storage and the value that it brings. So besides peak maximum demand, like I mentioned in my slides earlier, maximum demand reduction is something that we can look in, time of use, as well as backup security for power security and so on. So these are the values or factors that we can take into account when we try to evaluate should we bring in battery storage. Because with the NEM 3.0, where you can only export power at SMP, why waste the battery and donate it to TMB, right? I mean, yeah, the S&P price is even lower than LCOE price of your solar system. So it's not worth it. So this whole NEM 3.0 policy brings a limitation not only on the capacity, but also on the oversizing. So there are cases there where factories have plenty of roof space, but now because of their load consumption, they are not allowed to put on such a big system and fully utilize the the power that the solar system can bring them. Yeah.
Great, thanks. And my experience, I agree with both of you. One of the points I would bring out that I heard in both of your remarks is that, you know, I think people are trying different things. There are a lot of different groups, different companies have different economics. This is an incredibly entrepreneurial region. So I do look at these, you know, small experiments with batteries, with EVs, and I see some sort of green sprouts that can grow into something larger. So it's good to see some activity in Malaysia there. I may ask one more kind of big picture question and then go back and we can wrap up the NEM discussion. I think we're getting close to the end of the webinar time. But, you know, we did hear a lot about corporate PPAs, direct PPAs in Malaysia for some time, renewable energy credits, even the potential for selling green energy to Singapore. That seems to have been quiet and delayed, and I don't really have a great window onto that. Could anyone give us an insight into where the sort of the direct PPA market would go, and are corporations going to have an opportunity to directly procure solar power?
I mean, I'll give a very quick answer to that because there's not much to actually describe. You know, there is no framework today, you know, in Malaysia for, you know, the DPPA model, if you want, or the offsite model. I mean, if you look at, say, our experience as a company, as Cleantech, you know, in Malaysia, we were part of the initial on-site rooftop kind of boom like 5-6 years ago. But then the market opened up for offsite, you know, group captive or open access, as it's called in India. And clearly, it's been a natural extension for us in India. You know, now we're doing way more of that, you know, when we're off on-site behind the meter. And if you look at a customer like Kellogg, for instance, you know, we've done their sites in Malaysia, Thailand, in India, but then in India, we moved on to doing offsite contracts, you know. So now we have solar farms supplying power to Kellogg in India, which is a natural evolution. So the demand is there. I mean, you're seeing what's happening in Vietnam and so on and so forth. So the demand is there, but there is currently no framework that's mature, you know, in Malaysia to offer or to meet that demand. There's no shortage of interest, I think, from multiple parties, but I think there's a natural, you know, inertia in Malaysia, you know, before things are actually implemented. I know of one, what's called TPA contract, third-party access contract, that was signed, where, you know, a private company can access a publicly operated, you know, network, but it's not for electricity, you know, it's for gas. You know, Gas Malaysia, you know, has a company which happens to be our shareholders, you know, Shell, you know, to basically use the gas pipeline network to supply gas from, you know, basically an import terminal to a customer, right? You know, so there is a TPA, you know, a precedent that has been set, just the one, and it's taken about 5 years to get there. I think we might see things happening on the power side, but it's going to take a little bit longer. But yeah, lots of talks, lots of discussions, lots of interest, but nothing very tangible at this stage. I don't know if anybody else has any other opinion or update.
Any of the other panelists like to add to that or provide your perspective?
Yeah, basically one of our customers have participated in a pilot program called P2P. In Malaysia, there are many names, you know, open access, behind the meter, offsite, TPA, you know. So Malaysia used the word P2P, okay, peer-to-peer energy trading kind of stuff. So there were a pilot program some time ago, but it has been concluded, quite successful. And hopefully the government is listening to the industries and open up the market, you know, to allow this kind of third-party access and start out with PNB on the wheeling charges or toll fee or whatever you call it. So in India, how much are they? I know in India, how are they doing it? They're charging a fee
Yeah, but it depends. You have two different framework. You have a true open access model where there is a transfer charge, a wheeling charge that needs to be paid. But in many states, you have the other option, which is called the group captive option, where if the off-taker, has a minority stake in the solar farm, then you fall under a different framework. And then quite often you can have a waiver on your wheeling charges. So case by case, state by state, we look at the best solution, and we sign contracts, in both categories: open access, where you do have to pay a transfer charge, or group captive, where you can avoid paying some of those, depending on the structure. And also there's different windows. Some states had like initial kind of sale period where if you were to turn on before a certain deadline, then you had a waiver on the transfer charges. So it's quite a patchwork of different solutions. But some projects do incur a wheeling charge for the for both players, right? Because that's got to be absorbed in the tariff.
Okay. Thanks.
Great. So I think it's already been a very, very good discussion. I've looked through most of the audience questions and tried to incorporate those, and think we've covered most of them. So what I think I'd like to do then is to go back to each of the panelists for some concluding remarks. I'm sure I've missed some questions and there are things that you'd like to say. So I guess I started with the order at the beginning. Why don't I reverse that order and go back the other way? So maybe ask Arnaud, you're on my screen. Anything that you'd like to add, or any points that you think are important that we haven't covered yet?
No, I think we've already covered quite a bit of ground. My closing kind of ask would probably be a couple of things. I think in our power, I think for all of us in the audience, is to continue to spread the good word. As KK said, we clearly need to move the needle. It's if anything, we're behind. So I think we all can play a role in first and foremost, spending and devoting our energies to convincing people that solar and renewables in general make sense. That the time has come, and there's really no excuse, right? That's how I like to pull people up in this kind of events. To say, look, there is nowhere to hide. If you want to invest, you can. If you don't want to invest, some other people can invest for you. But there's really no excuse for not going ahead, not proceeding with solar. The other message is indirectly, through especially for the Malaysian citizens, is to kind of make their voices heard in terms of encouraging the authorities to continue opening the door, for more renewables, because the trend has kind of plateaued a bit. There was really a huge momentum with the former government. Obviously new priorities, new challenges now. But I think there's definitely, it would be good for the government's attentions to continue to be focused, on the fact that it's very important to provide the framework, but then we let, a private capital do its job, and move that needle. So I think, spreading the words, within kind of a business community, but then also making sure that the authorities hear the message that it's important to provide that flexibility, that will allow private capital to get deployed and actually go where it needs to go to make that difference.
Very fantastic. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. How about Elva? Is there anything you'd like to add as some closing remarks? Anything that we haven't covered? Do you think the audience needs to know?
I think most already covered. No matter it's a good thing or something here to improve, but I just say because we are doing solar, but why not we just expand? Not only think about solar, because solar belong to new energy. So while we do the new energy, like I think last few months there's a very hot topics like about the zero carbon. So for us, because we needed to reduce the carbon in the world, just like because we all know like the lockdown make the world become much better, cleaner, and things animal more enjoys. Yeah. So why we all do this new energy? Because of zero carbon. So but this depends on awareness. So let's say many people, like your previous question, why people wanted to install the solar because of the ROI or investment, because it's cheaper. But why not just say because Malaysia currently, we didn't really see lots of the EV car, but maybe only hybrid. But now we can see like most luxury cars have the EV cars. But let's say in the future, if Malaysia can also expand the restriction on the EV car, if they can really promote the EV car, so we can see more batteries even on our road, because you need to charge, right? Then the energy storage for solar or anyone for for the new energy, like now we are also very popular about the hydrogen something. It can really input in our life, just around us, not only on the factory. We can see it in our life, then we can really use it, because our awareness is about the clean energy. Then I'm sure the people, if citizens really want it, then government should also have more flexible policies, and even a self-consumption. I never know why we need to set the restriction on self-consumption, because it's self-consumption, it's, you don't need any subsidy. So I think if no matter is a governor, policymaker, or citizen, if we have this kind of awareness, then I think automatically the policy will become much better, and we never need to worry, how much is this quota this year and next year. It cannot really go longer like this. Yeah, it's I don't think it's so healthy. Yeah.
Good. Well, great. I think that's a pragmatic but optimistic view. So thank you. So how about for the next one? Why don't we ask KK if there's anything you'd like to add to close off this great discussion?
Oh, okay. So from for the CNI market, 300 mega as of just 2 months, 240 have gone, left 60. So the speed is incredible. So any audience that are still wondering whether you want to go or no go, grab it before it's gone. And as for, hopefully there are some policymakers here, please prepare upfront, don't last minute. And what's next after NEM 3.0? Finish 300 mega, so which is finishing very fast. Okay, so yeah, the industry is very upbeat. There are many adopters. Many want to go green and adopt solar. Residential, government agency, or commercial companies, you see. So yeah, so let's work together. This is something that is very good, and no subsidy needed, and please allow the market to grow by itself. I think it's place. Yeah, thank you.
Great, good. Thank you very much. I certainly hope the policymakers are listening, and I hope they've enjoyed it and learned as much as I have, and we can help to bring them along. And then so Ung, you started the session off. Maybe we'll give you an opportunity to have the last word for the panelists. Anything that you'd like to add?
Okay, thank you. So as a Malaysian, I would like to also ask our policymaker to really be more open on the policy, be it NEM or Celco or whatever. There shouldn't, like Elva mentioned, there shouldn't be any capacity limitation on the Celco, because basically it's self-consumption and so on. So by opening the market, then Malaysia, we have the perfect environment or condition to really make the country grows. But also I would like to urge our business community like KK, Macro Solar and so on to be more inventive or innovative in the business model. So we couldn't, NEM 2.0, we waited for 6 months before NEM 3.0 is launched. So NEM 3.0 is now running out of the quota. So we wouldn't know how long it will take for NEM 4.0 to come. So I hope everyone is much more prepared and learn their lesson from last round, and we can probably, I'm looking forward for a new business model that comes out from our business community that will makes Malaysia a vibrant and dynamic market for the solar industry. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that and practical final note. So I think with that, what I'll do is I'll move to conclude the webinar. Thank you to all the participants. I think that was some very, very good information. I think we got a lot of clarity and probably not a lot of controversy. So I think the viewpoint coming out is quite clear. I do think Malaysia has a very strong and solid market. It is growing steadily, although some of the initial growth may have waned and we're going to a bit of a more mature phase. But it does seem like rooftops are economically viable. As Arnaud said, I kind of look at this as a bit of a no-brainer. Companies are able to get climate benefits at no cost and actually at savings. It really is something that I think everyone should do and everyone's becoming aware of. I also do think that rooftops are an entryway into a distributed energy future. So I'm encouraged to hear that there are some green shoots on EVs on batteries, and I do think that those can be pathways towards a larger sector. I guess we'd all like to see a little bit more clarity going ahead, but I do feel the momentum's there and the future will be bright. So with that, again, one final thanks to all of the panelists. Thanks to the sponsors. Thanks to Neo Ventures and Shihan for all of their work in organizing this. Again, I very much enjoyed the panel. I thought there were some great insights, and I hope everyone else did as well. So thank you all, and hope we have a chance to talk again.
Thank you. Thank you so much again, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Jack, for moderating this panel. And thank you, Mr. Arnold, Mr. KK, Mr. Ng, Ms. Elva, for your great discussion and the information sharing. And now I would like to go ahead and move to the lottery session. So the gift cards winner for today are Chi Wei Chu from Adra Energy, Andrew Lim from Dinergy Engineering, Omer from Shizen Malaysia, Iser Lam from NG Malaysia, Sandy from QL Group, Chong Cindy from Brilliant Solar, HP To from Deloitte, Yunen Lau from Biomedics Solution, Albert from Worley, RC from SAG Green Tech. Congratulations, our team will get in touch with you after the webinar within 14 business days. And thanks again, everyone, for joining today's webinar. And we appreciate our speakers' great support and valuable comments for this market. So since some of the questions I see that here are not answered, I will also sum them up to our speakers after the webinar. And if you have any other questions that were not answered during the webinar, please also send your questions to our email address showing on the slide right now. And I will also sum up the questions to our speakers. Also, we will share the recordings of today's webinar along with the PowerPoint slides to your registration email by next week. And thanks again, everyone, for attending the webinar today. We'll see you next time.